Welcome to Chapter 12. The topic for Chapter 12 is religion, and we're going to be focusing today on the functions of religion in culture and society. Anthropologists find that religion exists in all cultures around the world. The belief in the supernatural appears to be directly proportional to the amount of scientific knowledge that a culture possesses. The greater the belief in science, the less the belief in religion. Therefore, anthropologists believe there are three primary functions for religion in society. All functions can be replaced by scientific reasoning if the occasion demands. The first of these functions is anxiety reduction. People get anxious when they don't understand why something is happening, whether that something has to do with the weather, the natural environment, the availability of animals or food supplies, for example, or simply the way other people are acting. The inability to explain why things are happening leads people to rely on religious explanations that attempt to give justification or causes for those activities or actions. In addition, religion may frequently, through the processes of prayer or magic, offer a method for controlling those environmental activities that people find disturbing or anxiety-producing. The second possible explanation or function of religion in society, according to anthropology, is that of ecological balance. In most societies, it's necessary for man to exist within a certain ecological balance in order for him to survive in his environment. Your book in Chapter 1 gave the example of the priests in Bali who use a traditional centuries-old religious calendar to determine the dates for irrigation, harvesting, and planting within their rice-based culture. This traditional calendar works very well in terms of ecological balance, providing the opportunities for farmers on a rotating basis to use the resources of their island. This, in turn, makes sure that everyone has an adequate food supply and actually in most years produced a surplus. The scientific method for achieving ecological balance, in this case, didn't work nearly as well when it was attempted. One of the possible reasons for this, according to anthropologists, is that science, based on Western philosophy anyway, used the religious notion that man should have dominion over the earth, translated in many cases as being man should be able to readjust what's going on in the natural world in order to suit his fancy, rather than coexisting with what God had given. Therefore, many times what science, and particularly technology, attempt to do is rework nature, sometimes with less success than others, and in many cases resulting in ecological disaster rather than balance. A final example of ecological balance that can be achieved through the use of religion can be seen in animal sacrifices that exist around the world. In many cases, these sacrifices are made in cultures where people are starved for protein or need protein on a regular basis. People are reluctant to sacrifice their animals, knowing that their family can't eat an entire cow, for example, and not terribly being willing to share this with their neighbors. On the other hand, within the religious atmosphere of that particular culture, they may have designated a priest or a shaman who may be in communication with the gods. The gods may send dreams to the priest or shaman, telling him that an animal sacrifice is in order, and in many cases designating the individual who's to make that sacrifice. In this way, the priests are able to alternate the sacrifices between individuals in society, and in many cases assign more of the sacrifices to be made by the wealthier individuals. Everyone gets a good meal out of the sacrifice. That's part of the deal with God. The third possible explanation or function of religion, in addition to anxiety reduction and ecological balance, is that of cultural regulation. In more modern societies, there are other methods used for describing laws, for mandating punishments, but in most traditional societies, the use of religious laws and religious punishments involving God or gods is the way in which people's behavior is kept under regulation by society. In fact, even in modern society, where people within the group believe in the same set of laws and the same sets of punishments, the culture tends to be more unified or more cohesive. People tend to act the way they act because they believe it's right and they believe God's telling them to act that way. This is much different than believing that you have to get caught and sent to jail in order to know that your actions are wrong. God's always watching in many cases, and this results in people behaving even when they won't get caught, thus the origins of guilt. These three rationales or functions for religion, anxiety reduction, ecological balance, and cultural regulation, appear to exist cross-culturally. And again, they exist in opposition to a belief in scientific knowledge or the awareness of scientific knowledge, and as one